Hello and thanks for joining me. Well, the last video I made a taper to fit in my tailstock with the idea of putting one of these die holders on the taper. I don't really like these because you got that handle you got to hang on to, and you know, I guess I could turn loose of it quick enough to, if it grabbed where it wouldn't hurt me. But I never liked the idea of running the lathe and running that into the die or into the stock and holding it from turning. Of course, you could lay it on the edge of the ways or whatever. There are ways to use this thing, but I thought I'd make a die holder like this. Fits into the tailstock and the die is right there, and it slides out and follows the stock. So that's what we're going to make today. There's a lot of work. I don't know if it's worthwhile or not. I'll know after I use it for a while. But I've tried it one time and it seems to work great. Anyway, let's get started. Well, there we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of DOM tubing. 3/4 on the inside and 1 1/4 on the outside. If you're going to make this, you could use 1 1/4 shaft and just drill that. It's not really critical. I just happen to have this. This is kind of expensive stuff. We made this last week, and we will use that. That's a taper that fits in the tailstock. And this has to be bored and threaded on the end, bore a blind hole, and this will slip inside that. This is our die holder. We got a lot to do, so let's get started. Well, we got a long, boring job ahead of us here. This needs to be 4.5 inches deep. This drill is 3 inches deep, so we'll have to go deeper as we get larger in diameter. So. Okay, this is 27/64, which is the size for a 1/2 inch tap. Kind of wobbling. There, straightened out. This can go all the way through. Okay, I've got a pilot hole for 1/2-13 all the way through it. And now I've got to open it up to 1 1/4. The biggest drill I got is 1 inch, so I'm stepping up to 1 inch and then I'll open up the rest of it with a boring bar. Okay, need to go 4.5 inches deep. I don't know if I can go that deep with my... It's right up to the chuck. Okay, I need to go about halfway up that shank there. It's really not very critical. I guess I'm going to have to use a tap wrench. Got a little decorative chamfer here. Okay, this is not an ideal situation. I need a larger boring bar is what I need. But this will probably work. It's going to be slow going. About 4 thousandths more, I think. I think I'm going to pretty much maybe go 1/1000th more on the boring bar, and then what I'm doing now is taking a spring cut. That boring bar flexes when you take a heavy cut, and I'm just compensating for that flex. Okay, we're really close to where we need to be. Needs to be a couple thousandths over. Really, it probably needs to be about 10 or 15 thousandths over. If it doesn't bind in there. Oh, that's perfect. I don't know what that is, but that's about how it needs to be. Got some chips in there, making it bind. I like it. Okay, I want to trim all my die holders to the same length. It'll just make it easier. They need to be face off anyway, but it'll be easier to make repeat cuts. Okay, I've got to cut a recess on the end of this tube here, and I'm going to put my insert on the end of the stock, and then put the die between my carriage stop and the carriage and lock it down. Now when I cut this recess, it'll be exactly the depth of my die. Okay, I'm just going to feed manually against my carriage stop. A little safer that way. You don't want to use the carriage feed against something solid like that. And once I establish the correct diameter, I'll reset my dial on the cross slide, and then I can just do all the tubes the same way. Okay, I got a drill and tap for these dog point, I guess they call them. I got a 300 thousandths from the end and right on the center there. Got a spotting drill in the collet. And I've got a 7/64 drill here, which, believe it or not, will fit in this collet. Not an appropriate way to do it, but it'll work. Okay, now I need to drill. Oh, I don't know if I left that drill long enough. There we go. I'm going to put 2 of these in there, and I'm just going to drill through. Hopefully it'll line up right. I think it will. Okay, I'm going to make a little flat for that nut to sit on. I could have machined that flat a little bit there, a little bit more, but I was afraid to take away from the amount of threads in this steel. I think ideally this would have been better if it had been 1 3/4 instead of 1.5 inches. Also, when I cut the slots in here, I'm going to have to grind some off the end of those little dog points there if I don't want to mill through this. I was going to mill just a straight slot. Originally I was just going to make these one-ended and make the slot deeper. And that may be what I should do, just for strength. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. It'd be nice to have double-ended. I think I'll just grind the end of those dogs off and then mill down almost through where the collet, the die will sit. So the next step is, well, probably mill those slots. I could either drill 3 holes for the die to connect with, or mill the 2 slots. Alright, I'm going to try one. About 1/10 of an inch deep. Okay. I think I may go back to my original idea and mill these slots deeper. I'm afraid those pins are not sticking out far enough to adequately support that, and with the torque it may dig in. Then there's another issue. I need to drill 3 holes to hold that die in there. And because of that limited thickness right there, the screws are going to stick out a little bit. So if I want to leave the die in there and flip it over and use the other end, it's not going to work. So I'm just going to make them one-ended and mill the slot so that it goes in about like that, and just use them one-ended. So I need to end my milled slot about a 1/2 inch from the end. Okay, I've got those scribe marks right there. Now when I flip it over, I'll put the ruler on this side and line up those scribe marks, and it makes it so that my slots are perfectly opposing. There we go. Could use some better lighting here. Okay, I ended up with 4 good ones here. I was initially going to mill all the way through, and that would work. I was a little bit concerned about that thin metal there at the edge of the die, and I really wanted the slot deeper, so I changed the design a little bit. I went deeper, sacrificed this end, and just going to make it one end. And it went quite a bit deeper and then ended right there. So when I put it in here, the set screws will be exposed for my die. So I ended up with 4 of them. I had 6 of them to begin with, and my mill slipped on that one. Started cutting real deep, went through it. So I got 4 good ones, and hopefully I won't mess up another one. If I need some more, I'll make some more. I'm getting ready to drill those 3 holes for the set screws to hold the die. So I'm going to install my indexer. If you haven't seen the video on the gear indexer, you might want to check it out. This thing works pretty good, and getting those 3 holes right is critical. I've also got a video on this. If you haven't seen it and you're interested, check it out. You can mount this on the tool post and drill in this way, or you can mount it on this arm and drill in the side. Now I've got to mount the tool post to this. Thinking maybe I need to move my compound the other way so that I can dial in 3/16 of an inch exactly for the right location. I suppose I could take an edge finder in there. I don't know if I could get my cross slide back far enough. Yeah, I can. That's probably the best way to do it. Okay. Reset my dial to 0 and then went in one turn. Now I'm exactly on the edge. Looks good. Now I got to go in 3/16, which is 187.5. 187.5. So I'm just drilling pilot holes, and then I'll go back with this drill and finish them up. I always try to maintain a very short distance here. That way if there's any slop in the bearing, which there is some slop there, it'll be minimal error. Got to get those burrs off from where the drill went through. A little harder to get off than you might think. Originally, I had to grind the end of these dog point set screws off because my slot wasn't deep enough, which might have been okay, but I feel better with a little more depth on those dog points. I believe it's going to work pretty good. Taking out the short ones and replacing it with the long ones. This is why I didn't make it two-ended, because I would have had to have really short set screws to get it to go in this direction. You could have made everything a lot thicker. That would have been great, but I wanted to keep it kind of compact. Okay, I got two different types of dies here. This is called an adjustable one. Some of them have a little set screw between them to adjust the size. This one here, you run the cone tip into that opening to limit how far it'll close down, then lock it in with the two side ones. This one here has no adjustment. It has two lockdown points. I personally like this one better, although this is a cheap die and it's undersized. That one's exactly 1 inch and this one's a little under. Kind of irritating, but I'm going to put in the 1/4 inch because it's something I use quite a bit. I'm also kind of curious. Yeah, see, it's not going into a recess on that die, so it's sticking out quite a ways. Shouldn't hurt anything though. Let's give it a try. One last thing I got to do is Loctite this taper into the back of the die holder. Putting red Loctite on it. I don't want it to come out. Fortunately, when the die is threading, it's trying to tighten this, so I can go ahead and try it before the Loctite dries. Perfect. When I go back, the end of my screw inside the tailstock ram pushes it out, but it locks in there perfect. A little bit worried about the chips clogging up in there, but so far it's doing pretty good. Probably wouldn't hurt to have an air hose blowing in the die to keep those chips back inside. Looks a little rough in places. That's probably where the chips were scratching the threads. But what I do like about this, back up and show you. All the chips are right there. I can empty those chips out and I'm ready to go again. Well, I think I like it. Seems to work pretty good. I like it better than having that handle to hang on to. It always kind of scared me if something grabbed. More than likely I could let go of the handle and not hurt myself, but having that die follow the... Another thing you could probably do is just make a solid tube die holder that goes into your tailstock. It doesn't even have to slide, it just pulls your tailstock into it. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and be sure and subscribe and ring that bell.